lifted the whole car up off the ground, off the trailer. Eddie B spins the wheels. So, well, we know the throttle pedal works and the motors turn.
Can it run? Right now,
Never
the battery
driven
pack is in
a
that truck.
So we go to Bonneville,
Truck into this,
roll it off the trailer.
Oh, we're gonna run this in
time
August.
this car ever moved under her own power was at the starting line in Bonneville.
August?
So
August, yep.
then
In
he
Utah.
got the go to push off, so he takes off, and everybody's like,
Hey, good question. Let me find out. Yep.
and that was the first run was 280 miles an hour. And then we had to switch battery packs, and we ended up getting to 359 was the top speed.
right.
This 353, that's the average of the 2 runs, and that's the world record.
Here's the guy.
That's
This is the owner of that truck.
Hey, how you doing?
Good.
I'm Snow.
Good to meet you. Oh, can I talk to you about your truck?
Sure.
Okay.
You want to go over here?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm gonna put this on my YouTube channel.
Okay. What's your YouTube channel?
True Zero Emissions.
True Zero Emissions. Okay, my YouTube channel is Gas and Go with Snow.
Gas and Go with Snow.
Yep.
Okay,
All right.
great.
So tell me what you need.
Tell me about this truck. What's in it, and what inspired you to convert it to electric?
Okay. Well, let's go over here and we'll start at the beginning.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, I like lots of details.
All right. Lots of details. Tell me when you stop wanting details.
Okay.
I'm with reVolt Systems. We were building a high-end conversion, and that's the Dr. 733, a 65 Mustang. Eddie B and I have kind of been in this since he opened the doors at reVolt. So we were talking about the build on the Mustang. When we got to a point where we had to send the car out to paint, we're sitting with a little bit of downtime. So Eddie B is talking about what are we gonna build next. I was like, well, I want to build something, but dude, I don't have $200,000 to put into a build. And he's like, no problem. Let's build something that a working man can build. Now, don't get that twisted. It is not cheap, but you can budget a few $100s a month and you could build an electric conversion. And that's why we decided on a truck. So I find a truck and I buy the truck, and when we start taking it apart, the thing is so rusty it's not usable. Trash can. So now I'm looking around, I'm talking to people, and I find a guy in Texas through a friend, and he's like, I have a whole bunch of those trucks sitting in a field on this farm. You know, I'll give you the best one, right, for $1,500. Really? Done. So I go out to Texas, I pick up the Hillbilly Deluxe. I'm from Oklahoma. The guys in the shop tease me about being a hillbilly and being country. And so I was like, well, you know what? I'm gonna build a Hillbilly Deluxe. That's where her name came from. So now we got the truck. Some guy's looking at it, and and I was like, oh, does it run? I was like, yeah, sure it runs. So I started up. It purrs like a kitten. He's like, man, I'll give you $1,300 for the motor and transmission. Done. So I buy the truck for $1,500, sold the running gear for $1,300. Now, we've got an empty truck. So we go in, we clean it up, and and there's very little rust, if any, on the truck. It's just dirty. It sat in the field for a long time. So we put a reVolt CR43 Bravo crate motor in here. That's what you see right here. To start, we had to weld the motor mounts in on both sides. And if you notice, the frame is boxed around the motor mount. That's for strength and stability.
The frame is boxed around the motor mounts? Oh,
Yes.
I see.
Yeah.
Yes, I see that.
Okay. Now,
Right there.
there's a lot of room under the hood of this truck.
It sure is.
Right? So I'm going to show you a couple things, and then we'll go over to the back.
Okay.
All right. Okay, so here we are. Now, in here, in this can is the inverter. That's what makes, it takes 400 volts, DC, comes into this inverter. This inverter converts that to AC, and you see these 3 lines here, that's AC output to this, the motor. And that transforms into spinning torque, which goes out through a torque box made by Torque Trends.
Wow, so the motor is actually, this is not the motor here, it's
No.
behind this.
Yes, so this is the inverter.
That's the
in this
inverter.
can.
Okay.
And all this stuff, as nice and shiny as it is, this is all made in Oceanside, California, on a 5-axis CNC machine by our neighbor at a IndyK Paragon machine shop. Then it houses the inverter. The main mount connects the inverter to the motor. So this started out life as a Tesla core, and we cut all the extra aluminum off of it that we don't need, and we turned the motor longitudinal because typically a Tesla motor sits sideways in your vehicle. Now, the reVolt kit is made to go into American muscle. Now, most people, like me included, I don't want to cut my truck to pieces to make it electric. I wouldn't do it. But this crate motor allows me to put the motor in the same configuration as an American V8 would have done. So that's the huge benefit from using a reVolt kit. All right. Now, do you have any questions on this part? Because we can move on to the inside of the truck.
Okay, so the motor's back there, and then what's behind the motor?
There's a torque box. That torque box takes the place of a transmission. Now, what we do, this is a 16,000 RPM motor. Now, anybody who knows about the gear ratios and rear ends will tell you that a rear end can't take 16,000 RPM. You'll just spin the thing apart. So we step that down to a manageable number, and a manageable number is 8,000 RPM. So at 8,000 RPM, that torque box, now it's a torque multiplier. So that gives us 1,000 pound-feet of torque at the yoke. We're making 603 horsepower from the motor, and it sends it out to a quick performance rear end with a 524 gear in it. So that translates to a 10-second quarter mile, low 7-second eighth mile. So she's doing the hustle pretty well.
So do the wheels come off the ground, the front?
I haven't picked the wheels up off the ground, but I've beaten everybody that's lined up next to me. The Hillbilly Deluxe is undefeated at the time of this video.
Okay. All right, so where are we moving on to next?
All right, let's go to the inside of the truck. Let me get out of here. All right. So if you want, go ahead and go to that side. I'll go to this side. All right. So inside, we got Sparko seats, really comfortable and give you a lot of support. All right. Now, my man Jeff at Sonoma, up in Sonoma County Customs, he gave me this wheel. This is a classic 60s, 70s steering wheel, and complete with the 8-ball suicide knob. This thing, one of my favorite parts in the truck. She also has a full roll cage. Something you're not going to see in your typical EV is right here. This is my charge controller for that solar panel in the trunk. In the truck bed, and we'll talk about that here in just a second.
Okay. It's
controlled by a T2C, which the motor is controlled by a T2C, which is behind the seat.
What's a T2C?
A T2C is from EV Controls, and that's the brain of the whole system.
Okay.
All right, so let's go in the back and we'll talk about batteries.
Okay.
Exactly, same thing. All right, now, what we're looking at here, we just talked about the solar panel. That's this, and that's what keeps my 12-volt system charged. So don't confuse it. It is not charging the battery pack. It's charging that 12-volt battery right there on the side, and that's my headlights, my brake lights, my signal lights, and anything that would run off of an alternator. All right, now let's go to the battery pack. This battery pack, there are 1,152 cells. If you look at the side of that battery pack, you'll see the individual, no, you can see it right there. See the individual little rectangles there?
Yes.
Those are prismatic cells out of a Honda Insight.
Gen 3, right?
Yes. Yep, you got it. So you've done your homework. I like that.
Yeah.
All right. This battery pack is the fastest battery pack in the world. If you look at the corner there, see it says 444 right there?
Yes.
It says 444 on the number of the tail of this big yellow banana. This is the fastest electric car in the world. And it did 359 miles an hour top speed and 353 miles an hour for a 2-run average.
And that's this car over here?
That's this car over here.
And this has the same battery, right? Same battery?
This is the battery out of this car. We took it out of this car.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's the fastest battery pack in the world too.
Wow.
This battery pack has actually been 359 miles an hour.
Where did the battery go? Where was it placed in here?
All right, so if you're looking at this, you got the rear wheels right here.
Yes.
There's a mini drive line that connects it to the motors. The motors are right here. And then that battery pack sat right here.
Okay.
And that's the running gear for this. So once we've completed our Bonneville run, we took that battery pack out and we built this.
Wow.
Now, underneath this truck We have a complete custom, fully adjustable 4-link made from scratch right in the reVolt shop. Now, the owner of reVolt is Eddie B. Eddie B welded all these welds. I bent all the tubes. We got parts from Off-Road Warehouse, and we built the whole thing in-house in 4 months. And like I said, at the time of this video, the Hillbilly Deluxe is undefeated.
Does this mean it won't pass the smog test?
And you know what? It's a funny thing you said. That's why that's on there. Because when you go to register it, they'll say, okay, you have to go to a referee because the truck is from out of state. You also have to get an e-registration. So I have an appointment to go and do that, and that's exactly why that's there, because it's legal, but I have to go and show that it is truly electric, and I can't put a gasoline engine back in it and get around smog. So yes, you do have to attend to the smog regulations for a vehicle that's newer than 1975.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that we should add for students or people that are very interested in electric but don't know how to grasp what electric really is? Is there anything else we could add?
Yes, the one thing that I would emphasize many times over is safety. Safety. So every EV that you see or you come across, and I challenge you to do this, look for it. You should have a disconnect. You need to be able to disconnect. So if you think about most race cars, if you look at a race car that's on a track, on the back there'll be a big red button, boom, and that kills the fuel, right? That's what you're doing essentially. You kill the electricity. So you should have an electric cutout, right? So safety is going to be very important. This is very high voltage. That's 400 volts in that pack, right? Anything more than 48 volts is considered high voltage. Okay. So you want to be safe. That's the number one thing I can emphasize is safety.
So over 48 volts, does that mean that it actually can harm you if you touch it? If you touch it directly?
Yes.
Okay.
Over 48 volts will give you a nice little jolt to where you won't want to do it again.
And then when you start getting higher, it just becomes deadly.
Well, if you get a jolt from 400 volts, you may not be able to do it again.
That's a good way to put it. That's a good way to put it.
48 volts, you won't want to. 400, you may not be able to. Yeah.
And how would you recommend for people to get their hands on these batteries, this Gen 3 Insight cells?
Ooh. I'm gonna pass that question on to the Wheeling Welshman.
So I was able to source these batteries for these two projects. People have realized how good they are. Now that we've done this and showcased them, they're very hard to get hold of. But the technology is moving along. A lot more hybrid cars are coming out with these really punchy packs. So there are other options. Some of the Hyundai stuff is out there. Some of the Kia stuff is really good. C-Max, Ford C-Max is a slightly older one, but do your research for sure. Make sure you got a good battery management system. Make sure you understand it before you even start putting stuff together. Because if you put it together and then read up on it, you'll be doing it twice.
Yes, and that's one of the things I want to touch on what he said.
Okay.
The number one most difficult part of your build, bar none, is going to be your battery pack design and placement. That's number one. You need to map that out, and the big thing is decide what you want to do with your vehicle. If you want, I want to be able to drive 400 miles. That's a totally different build than something that's designed to go 1/8 of a mile and leave people in the dust. So figure out what your purpose for your vehicle is, and then build your design around what you want the vehicle to do.
And how would you recommend people choose their battery management systems? Should they just do their research?
Yeah, I think you want to do the research because there's a lot of good companies out there. A couple that come to mind is AEM and Orion. Those are two of the primary companies that will give you, it's not really a plug and play system, but they'll give you proven systems.
It's a robust system.
Yes, that's a better way to describe it. They're robust, not necessarily simple.
You can get them so cheap on AliExpress, but do you trust it not to kill it? Do you trust it not to burn your house down? When you leave it there in your house charging? No.
Right, exactly. That's a great point.
And that's AEM and Orion, right?
Yep.
And Orion,
Both super proven,
both are proven platforms. All right, man. Hey, thanks, man.
Thank you.
So, Gas and Go with Snow. Make sure you tag me on that so I can comment and and follow you.
Okay, I will.
All right, thanks.
Okay, bye.